Welcome to Dental Talk. I'm Nicola Deall, the Chief People Officer at Dentalcorp, and I have the privilege of guest hosting today's episode with someone who's redefining what's possible in so many arenas. Let's dive right in. How many people can say they've won 4 Olympic gold medals, a silver, competed at multiple sports at the Olympics? How many women have scored in professional men's hockey, received the Order of Canada, and are now saving lives in the ER? There's only one Canadian who can claim all of that, and she's with us today. Hayley Wickenheiser, it's a 7-time world champion, published author, assistant general manager of player development for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and practicing emergency medicine physician. Hayley, welcome to Dental Talk.
Thanks for having me, Nicola.
We're so thrilled. So the first question that we want to ask you today is, I want to start with something that truly fascinates me. You achieved your first Olympic medal at Nagano in 1998, winning silver for Canada. Then you go on to the Summer Olympics in Sydney in 2000 and play softball for Canada. Then you get your first gold medal and MVP at Salt Lake City in 2022. That's not all. Next, you're in Finland playing in men's professional hockey before going on to win 3 gold medals at each of the subsequent Winter Olympics until Sochi in 2014. I hope I've got that right. My question is, what is your why for that much success, and what's the intrinsic motivation or the conversation you have with yourself that really drives you again and again to pursue that level of excellence and achievement?
It's pretty simple. The why is that I love to do it. I've had sort of 2 goals since I was a kid. One was to win a Stanley Cup for the Edmonton Oilers. The other was to become a physician. And along the way, I was playing softball. In the winters, we play hockey in Saskatchewan, and then in the summers, like over in Australia, they play a lot of softball. So I'd throw my glove away or my skates away and pick up my ball gloves. So it was just a natural progression for me to do all of that. And I think being a professional athlete was what I always wanted and dreamed to do. So that just in my world meant Olympics, World Championship along the way. And then always pushing myself to try to become the best that I could be. There was no professional women's hockey at the time, so playing professional men's hockey was how I created a pro career for myself.
In Finland?
Yeah, in Finland. And then I did play in Sweden in 2008 as well. I went back after a couple of years in Finland. So so sort of went in and out of the men's pro game as I was playing on the national team.
So that intrinsic motivation that you're saying, it was just always a dream. Was that something that was there just from when you were a kid? You know, it's not like you had parents saying and giving you these ideas. You were just innately driven to achieve this.
Yeah, I really was. I actually, my mom and dad are retired teachers, and they were not crazy hockey parents. They are the complete opposite, actually. And they often would say, are you sure you want to keep doing this? It's getting kind of hard. Like, do you want to do something else? Like, we only had 2 rules growing up in our house. One was you had to pick a sport and be active, and the second was you had to play an instrument, because my dad was a drummer in a rock band. So I play the piano quite poorly, but sports was my thing. And so it just comes from within. I always tell parents that it has to be your child's dream and not yours. And if kids are going to get there, they're likely going to get there, with or without you, sort of thing. And it just has to come from within. So I'm a very driven, probably was a very high strung, stubborn kid at the same time, and just loved to play all sports, really.
It's amazing. Speaking of continuing to pursue achievement, after even that legendary career, you then decide to go to med school in your late 30s. What gave you the courage just to become a student again and take on the most demanding career that you could possibly have chosen when you'd already reached the top of the mountain? What drove that?
Yeah. I think courage is probably a good way to describe it, because it's a little bit crazy too. I started med school, I think I was 38 years old, and I always wanted to do it. Like I said, I really had that dream from 10 years old that I knew when I was in my world of hockey that I would have to think about what life after would look like. I never thought it would include working for the Toronto Maple Leafs or in the NHL. I just didn't see that possibility. I suppose I knew I could do it. I just didn't know if the hockey world was ready for that. And so I just was like, okay, I'm going to shut that door and open another, which was medicine. So I was able to eventually get in and start medicine. And then a couple of months into medical school, the Toronto Maple Leafs called and offered me a job. And I couldn't turn that down either. So we were able to make an arrangement. And I said, if you let me, I have to finish medicine. I'll accept the job, but I really need to finish medical school. So I've been able to balance both since. And I love it. I'm so glad I did it. There were many, many days and nights inside of medicine that I was questioning my decision. But for the most part, getting on the other side of residency, you get your life back. I've got my schedule back, and I feel like I'm in control of my career and what I want to do now. And it seems to, looking back, all the hard work is worth it at the end.
It's an amazing pivot and story. Okay, so now you're an ER doctor, you're working in a Toronto hospital during the COVID pandemic. How did that role shape you, and what did you learn about yourself and about leadership through that experience?
I would say the first thing is I went from being a veteran in one world of hockey to a complete neophyte and a rookie in medicine, literally not knowing anything. And when the pandemic hit, I was finishing up some med school rotations actually in emergency departments across Toronto. And I was the rookie. And I remember when I went into my first day of medical school, I had all of these flashbacks and almost regrets about all the things that I did wrong as a veteran in hockey. I should have been more patient with this player. I should have handled this situation different because I forgot a little bit what it was like to be that rookie again at 23 years into my national team career. And going back inside medicine, I just so appreciated all of those people that took the time to teach, to mentor me, to have patience with like all the mistakes and things you make as a med student, not knowing what you're doing. And then in the pandemic, what I was able to witness was people that were absolutely going above and beyond and at times putting their own health aside to save the health of others. I saw it take a tremendous toll on my friends and my colleagues. And many of my friends at my age were 15, 20 years into their medical career, and they're in ICU and in emerge positions that are dealing with this. And so just hearing their stories and watching what they were going through was amazing. And it was very inspiring. So I learned a lot that you can be the best in the world, but it's another thing to also be the best for the world. And I think that's what medicine has really given me.
That's an amazing way to see it. Today, you're the Assistant General Manager of Player Development for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What gives you the most satisfaction in that role, and what wisdom do you have to share with the younger players because of your lived experience?
Well, development, it's a very personal, non-linear thing, both in sport and in life. And not every person learns or, goes along the path at the same trajectory and the same speed. And so I think the thing that I try to impart on players when we get them with the Leafs is just you've got to start young and early in your career developing the pro habits that are going to set you up for success for years to come if you really want to be a professional player. A lot of players want to be pro athletes, but you'd be surprised that not that many are able to fulfill the little things every single day of what it takes to get there. And so by the time they've come to us as draft picks or they've made the organization and we've selected them and they've already gone through quite a lot in their young lives of, 17, 18, 19 years old. But there's still, a massive area there for them to grow. And especially dealing with young men between the ages of like 19 and 25 years old, where the prefrontal cortex still has a way to go. it's, it's really fun. I find them incredibly engaging. They're very open to listening, and being a female in that male world, I can bring a perspective to them at times that I think is disarming and allows them to sort of open up and maybe share things they may not otherwise share. And then my experience inside medicine as well becomes very helpful. So it's a fun place to work. It's high stress, high pressure, and high expectations, often on very young people that aren't necessarily equipped to deal with all of that. So it's a challenge for our team to bring them along and help them be successful.
Wow. I mean, they're just so incredibly lucky to have your wisdom and insights there. You are keynoting at our partner conference in Vancouver next week. And in your book, you talk about how failures have led to some of our greatest successes or your greatest successes. Can you share how did failure shape you and what did you learn from failure? Because I think every leader that's watching this, and certainly our dentist leaders, have had those moments.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you haven't, I don't know if you're human. It's like just part of life, right? We all have failed. And so I will talk a little bit about that as well at the conference. But I think I tell kids all the time, for as many games that I won in my hockey career, I probably lost just as many. And it's amazing that, we were able to win 4 gold medals in a row in these world championships. And but along the way through my pro career, I probably lost as many of those games, just maybe not those big moments as much. And so people, tend not to want to talk about that. But really that the failure is where you're shaped. I remember losing the first Olympics I competed in, which was the Nagano Olympics in Japan. I had never thought about losing. And all of a sudden I was standing there with a silver medal, looking across at the gold medal and the Americans. But I have a motto, generally in life right now, and I use it in medicine. And it's suck a little less every day. So, as you go through these hard careers of dentistry, medicine, where there's a huge learning curve, I think it's like a lot of pressures to put on oneself to be great right away. And so it's just about being courageous to fail often and fail forward. And so I wasn't afraid to do that when I went into medicine because as an athlete, every day of my life, someone was telling me to do it better. So you get very used to the critical opinion of others and you understand how to harness that for positive and for good for yourself. And the students that I saw struggle in medicine were often the ones who couldn't manage the critical feedback that they got. But for me, that's a great gift. And learning how to handle that, I think, can really take you to the next levels of where you want to go.
Yeah, an amazing growth mindset skill. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about navigating spaces that weren't really built for you, but you nonetheless managed to succeed in. I mean, from Olympic champion to NHL executive, you just consistently either been the only or the first doing things, even playing boys, hockey league as a kid. What made you feel able to just trailblaze in so many places?
That's such a great question. I honestly, I don't know. I think I loved playing hockey. So I had this outdoor rink in my backyard. That is where like it was like the new canvas every night that I could just go out there and design my own artwork and be who I wanted to be. And no one was no one was coaching me, no one was watching. It was where I felt sort of free. When I got into structured hockey, minor hockey with the boys, and then later professional hockey, there were times when it got really hard. But I think what kept me going was number one, I had this very insulated, safe space with my parents who would just sort of protect me from. There were comments and things that went on. Like years later, my dad would tell me a few of these things, and I just would like, oh wow, I didn't even know that happened. So they were sort of there to bounce it off. But also, I also took a lot as well. But I had as I said earlier, I was pretty determined and stubborn. So when I developed this attitude, to prove them wrong. So if people would say girls don't play hockey, I'd say watch this. And so sort of this prove you wrong attitude for a lot of my childhood and into my, early 20s. And then it's an exhausting way to live like that, but I transitioned sort of to like I don't have anything to prove anymore. But that's kind of what drove me was that attitude for a long time, and then the love of just wanting to play, and nobody was going to take that away from me.
It's very inspiring to hear you talk about that. Our dental practices are teams where every person's contribution is absolutely critical to success every day, from the hygienists and the dental teams and then all of our office teams. What have you learned about what separates good teams from truly champion teams, especially under pressure?
I think good teams value everyone regardless of your role. And it's interesting when I'm in the world of medicine, or even if I was to walk into a dental office or another form of medical office, you can tell pretty quickly the culture and the vibes that exist in that office. How are the staff interacting with the patients? Are they happy? Are they smiling? Do they generally like their jobs? And are they outward facing? It's pretty obvious, at least to me, it is. And also, the physicians, the dentists, and How do you treat the people who you need every day to support you? And those great teams seem to have, they have leaders. There's definitely you need to have leaders, but there's a little bit more of almost sometimes a flat leadership that exists where everybody can be a leader at any moment, depending on the circumstance and the situation. And so I really think of it as if you think of a hockey team that has, a first to fourth line and sort of a hierarchy of the best player to the worst, and defensemen as well. Um, when you win on teams, it's not always the star player that comes through. In fact, most of the time it's not. It's the player that dumped the puck or blocked the shot or made the smart change. And I think in business and in medicine, it's the same. It's all the little things that people don't see that add up to team success. And then how do you value each person's success along the way, and how are you lifting the team up and building that culture from within?
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Look, you write about the neutral zone and being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and I think it's really relevant as a leader. And whether you're captaining, Team Canada in your case, or developing NHL talent, how do you lead others when you might be navigating uncertainty yourself and just continue to show up as an authentic leader, even if we might not have all the answers?
Well, I think part of being authentic is just, like you said, being yourself. And I think that people have pretty good BS meters in the world that we work with, and especially when we work with people every single day, they get to know who you are and how you act. Especially when, I always say do team building where you have real stress, because then you'll get to see what people are made of and how they react under that. And so I think it's just, are you authentically yourself when things are going well, and in the same way as when they're not? And that also means not always having to have all the answers or know what to do, but being able to ask for help if you need it, being able to communicate that you made a mistake or that things could be done differently, and just being open and honest, regardless of whether you have all the answers or you don't, because I think people appreciate that sort of radical candor and that honesty more than they do someone that wants to pretend that they have it all figured out, or volunteer everybody what to do and those types of things. So when I think about that type of leadership and how you present, people figure you out pretty quick. And so I say be yourself, whatever that is, and then learn to supplement around you with the weaknesses that you have that make you better as a leader.
Yeah, that's very, very well articulated. Um, you founded WickFest in 2010, an annual event which is creating pathways for other girls and women to really come together, play hockey, grow, and connect. In dentistry, we'll see gender parity in representation reached by about 2035. And, pleasingly, women's sports are more visible than ever. What do you hope? What are your dreams for WickFest? And what do you see that's different to when you started it in 2010?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking about it. We started WickFest coming out of the Olympics in 2010 because the growth of female hockey in the Lower Mainland was not very good, and so it was like, okay, how can we grow the game? And now we've almost worked with 40,000 female hockey players over that time from literally all over the world. We just finished one in Milton here in Ontario. We'll have Calgary coming up. We'll have Surrey, BC in February, and then we're going to head down to Las Vegas for an event. I don't know if I could have ever imagined we would have been able to do that even in 2010. But women's sport is having a moment. People are interested in the female athlete. I think people are also understanding there's a business there and there's money to be made and there's TV that people will watch. And so all of these things matter, because that's how you continue to show the growth and the visibility and to drive salaries forward for women in sport. So, and my hope for WickFest is we could maybe expand it to maybe the east to Halifax and maybe another location or two in the US eventually. But that, every little girl that comes to our events, it's just normalized that this is a great festival, and that, someday I'm going to be able to maybe make millions of dollars playing hockey, and there's a true path out there, which there already is with the PWHL, but just so that they can continue to expand and have those dreams just like the boys do with the NHL.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. Look, you're working with young NHL prospects and alongside residents in ER, and I know in our practices we also see generational differences with the next generation of dentists. What are you seeing with the next generation and what they need to thrive?
Oh, that's such a good question. Some days I feel like I'm getting old inside the world of hockey. Yes. Like I said earlier, I think I'm not sure that this generation understands how to receive criticism or take criticism. I think they need to. And I think just having discussions around that part of becoming elite at what you're doing also includes failing and failing forward. And how do you take that feedback and use it for good? I think this generation wants to feel heard and listened to. They want to collaborate more than maybe in past and even my generation. Where, when I started in my pro hockey journey, the coach would dictate and tell what to do and the players would do it. I think that is different now, where you have to have a much more collaborative, open door approach. Be willing to listen and work with your players, your residents, whatever, for an answer. But I think at the end of the day, the principles of you got to work hard and there is a standard that needs to be met still hold true. And if you're not going to hold yourself accountable to those standards, then you don't belong in that environment. So I think that, the merit-based approach is still a very good one, because they're hard jobs and they require technical and incredible skill to be able to do. And it's a standard that everyone should feel very, very proud of themselves when they hit.
Thank you. A personal question. Studies show in our industry that dentists really do struggle with loneliness and a feeling of isolation in their careers. What role do human relationships and human connection play in being a high performer? And who do you turn to when everyone expects you to be the strong one?
Yeah, I was talking to a friend the other day and she was saying, like, well, how's it, they're around people all day long. And I said, well, you can be around people all day long, but still feel like the loneliest person on the earth. So, I think connection is so, so incredibly important, and how we go about that and cultivate that. Like, it's starting in the workplace is, how do you create a team around you where you feel like going to the office every day is fun and enjoyable, and you can, it can't all be heavy. It can't all be work all day long, because that leads to burnout, or at least in my experience in the emerge. If I don't like laugh and swear a few times a shift and have some fun and make jokes, with my colleagues, and just makes light of some very, very difficult situations at times to help relieve the stress, then I probably haven't had a great day there in the hospital. And so it has to feel enjoyable. You need to feel supported. How are you interacting, with dentists, with other dentists in the profession, to lift each other up and support each other, I think is a really important thing. And I often find that the higher you go in life within your profession, your job, the lonelier people are. CEOs and presidents and people that I've talked to, elite athletes in other sports, they all have that same problem, where you get more and more isolated, and you feel sometimes lonelier and lonelier. So I think just having, I call it like, your truth tellers, your circle of people around you that you can go to, that you trust innately, to help pick yourself up and bring some joy into your life, so you don't feel like you're pulling everything up the mountain by yourself.
Absolutely. If younger Hayley were here, maybe it was the girl first lacing up skates, or maybe it was starting med school. If she walked into this with us right now, this interview, what would you tell her about building a career on your own terms?
I would just say, society and life likes us to live in a box, but you don't have to. Break the box open, make it your own, and don't let anyone ever tell you you have to be in a box. Life it has lots of twists and turns and decisions to be made along the way, and everyone's unique in their journey, and there's just so many ways to live a life out there, and go for it.
It's so inspiring. Okay, before we wrap up, I have to do this. This is our lightning round, and you have to make quick choices and no overthinking. So first
Okay.
up is, what's more nerve-wracking? Is it your first Olympic shootout or your first code blue?
The Olympic shootout, I'll say, just because it's me and by myself.
Okay, Next one is, what's the pump up music that you're playing before a big moment? Is it rap? Is it rock? Is it pop?
Some electronic dance music that all my teammates just hated, but I loved it.
Hey, whatever works. Okay, who's a tougher crowd, hockey parents or hospital administrators?
Oh, hockey parents, because we never see the hospital admin. So yeah.
Okay, that's an easy one. Okay, the next question is, you get a 4 a.m. wake up call. Would you prefer it to come because of Olympic training or an ER night shift?
Oh man. Oh, I'll say Olympic training because that was self-inflicted.
Great. Okay, which challenge would you tackle next, between climbing Everest or running for Prime Minister?
Oh, I'd say climbing Everest, although I really don't want to do that either. So climbing Everest.
Great. We won't hold you to it. Hayley, your journey from the ice to the ER to the boardroom just proves that every barrier broken has made the next one possible for you. It's just a genuine privilege to have had time with you on our podcast. And I want to say a very big thank you for showing our dental community what it means to just constantly reimagine for yourself what's possible while staying absolutely true to who you are, and for that insight into what drives absolute excellence. Thank you so much. To our listeners, we'll see you next time on Dental Talk as we continue to bring conversations with extraordinary leaders who are reshaping healthcare. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicola.